Good evening. The situation in the Middle East has intensified recently, raising regional security concerns and fueling calls for international intervention. Welcome to our special coverage on Q News as we explore the latest updates in Syria and Lebanon tonight. And we start with Syria. Germany's Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock and her French counterpart have met Syria's new leader Ahmed al-Shara on behalf of the European Union. Baerbock and France's Jean-Noël Barrot are the first ministers from the EU to visit Syria since the armed forces seized control of Damascus on December 8th and forced Bashar al-Assad to flee, ending his family's decades-long rule. Before she left, Baerbock said the trip was intended as a clear signal to the Syrian people that a new political beginning between Europe, Germany and Syria was possible. Meanwhile, the French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot has pushed for a political transition in Syria. Barrot offered France's assistance in supporting Syria's political transition and transitional justice system, emphasizing the need to combat the resurgence of Islamist terrorism. He also proposed organizing an international conference in late January to connect Syria with its partners and guide the political transition in the right direction. The United Nations has called for urgent multi-year funding to support recovery and stability in Syria. The UN added that Syrians are still struggling to access food, shelter and healthcare, and their needs cannot be ignored. Meanwhile, Israeli airstrikes have hit Safira area at the south of Aleppo in Syria, resulting in a series of massive explosions. Media reports indicate that the strikes targeted defense factories and research centers in the region. There were no casualties reported. The Israeli targets in Syria included military airports, weapons and ammunition warehouses, as well as aircraft squadrons, radars and military communication stations. Syria has imposed new restrictions on the entry of Lebanese citizens following clashes between Lebanon's army and Syrian armed forces. According to Lebanese security sources, it seems Syria have new procedures allowing in only Lebanese with residency permits or official permission. Now, for more on this, we are joined by the writer and political analyst, Dr. Qusay Abido. Welcome to Q News. Thank you very much for being here with us. What is the significance? Let's start with what we started with. What is the significance of the visit by the French and German foreign ministers to Syria? I'll give you the question again, shall I? What is the significance of the visit by the French and the French and German foreign ministers to Syria? I think we're having a few problems on the line, so we'll try and we're going to try again on that one. Dr. Qusay Abido, are you there with us? We want to know from you what your opinion is on the situation and the significance of the visit of the French and German foreign ministers to Syria. Okay, we're going to come back to that in just a little while. But meanwhile, a Syrian delegation led by the foreign and defense ministers, along with the head of intelligence, has arrived in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, on a trip there, the first foreign trip by an official from Syria. Syria's foreign minister, Assad Hassan al-Shibini, said that he accepted an invitation from Saudi Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan bin Abdullah to visit Riyadh. Al-Shibani described the trip as a step toward re-establishing Syria's regional role. Regional leaders are increasingly open to renewing diplomatic ties with Syria after the fall of Assad and his government. Now I think we can bring our guest in, just Dr. Kusai Abido. Thank you very much for being with us, a writer and a political analyst. I wanted to ask you about this visit by the French foreign minister and the German foreign minister, Jean-Noel Barrot, and also Annalena Baerbock. What is the significance of this, and how important is it to Syria?
Good evening to you and to your viewers. In fact, as a beginning, this visit is arranged by the EU because the EU decided to send the foreign minister of Germany and France to Syria in order to review on the ground what is the situation and to open good relations with Syria and to monitor the political situation in Syria to guarantee the rights of the minorities and to guarantee the representation of all the components of the Syrian people and to guarantee engaging into a civil state where everybody participates. That's one thing. And also to see the Sirnaya prison in order to get some documents and information that can be used to be presented to the United Nations and to be presented to the International Court so as to pursue the former regime and the officials who were entangled with killing the Syrians and put them to fair trial. Also, there are certain items that were discussed, including resuming the operations of the French, German embassies, as well as the other European embassies, and also to provide assistance to the Syrian state in order to be back engaged on the regional and international levels, so as Syria would be back to its geopolitical role in the world, to have good relations with Europe and to be open to everybody. And also there were talks and discussions about the HTS, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, and to see how they undertake things properly so as Germany and France can lift HTS from the list of sanctions and remove it from the list of terrorist organizations. So all of these elements were discussed extensively. Also regarding the political situation, there has been a discussion about the outspread of weapons throughout Syria and also the file of the Kurds and the SDF forces.
So do you think, Doctor, that this was a successful visit? And how important, and were you surprised to have a delegation from the EU come to Syria so quickly after the fall of Assad?
The issue is to get Syria to be open to everybody, and the visit is a part of this. Um,
And a successful visit in Syria's view? Okay. Well, I think I'm going to move on to a different question for you, Doctor. Of course, there was a visit as well by Syria's Syria's new foreign minister and also defense minister who have been to Riyadh. How important is that relationship, and how important is that visit for Syria? What are the significant points about that?
yes, for sure, Saudi Arabia has got a support on the Arab and Islamic levels. So opening the relations with Syria is important. It was inevitable. That's a must for both countries to get the best relations between Syria and Saudi Arabia. And Saudi Arabia was also initiating its steps to assist the Syrian people. We have seen the that arrived at the Syrian airport. And this is the first visit from a delegation from the new Syrian Republic to Saudi Arabia. It recognizes the weight of Saudi Arabia on the regional and international levels. And also, there has been a discussion on many files, and on top of which was the assistance from Saudi Arabia to the Syrian state to get Saudi gas and oil to Syria. So Saudi Arabia is proposing a lot of things to assist the Syrian people.
And that's very good for Syria and the relationship with Saudi. And as you mentioned, it has many benefits. When it comes to the reintegration of Syria in regional political and economic terms, do you think this is going to happen quite quickly?
So we need some time. It's not going to be so swift, it's not going to be so quick, but it will take some months. But the diplomatic move that is happening in Syria now, since a month now, it is a very strong movement. And still, we need to open the embassies, we need to facilitate the movement of the airports, and to qualify the Salvation government in Syria to do its works, and to restore relations with the European countries. So this is on the foreign level, but internally Syria needs to organize the Ministry of Interior, the Ministry of Defense. So the diplomatic movement is an important element for Syria, and of course lifting the sanctions on Syria is a prime step that should be done as soon as possible. Also, the issue of the political representation of the Syrian foreign ministry. Syrian foreign ministry should be represented all over the world in the Syrian embassies. Also, the issue of Saudi Arabia is specific because Saudi Arabia has got its own specificity together with Egypt and the other Gulf countries. So there had been more of a frozen relations with the former regime. But restoring these relations would be important to revitalize things in Syria on the political level and the economic level. And these countries would definitely be working to assist the Syrian people in order to resume normal life and to get things gradually back on track on the economic level. Still, all these issues would need time, that's for sure. We can speak of months before these things are back on track.
Well, thank you very much for joining us on the program from Latakia. That was the writer and political analyst, Dr. Qusay Abido. Thank you for being here with us on Q News. Now, Qatar Airways has announced that it will resume flights to the Syrian capital, Damascus, starting next week. The statement added that the decision to restart operations to Syria reflects the airline's commitment to fostering regional connectivity and supporting passenger demand. Qatar Airways added it is working closely with relevant authorities to ensure that all necessary safety, security and operational standards are met ahead of the relaunch. Now, from the situation in Syria, we move to the latest developments in Lebanon.
كل المستهدفين هن مدنيين.
الوضع شيء مرعب، شيء بخوف.
Now, Lebanon's caretaker Minister of Social Affairs, Hector Hajar, has visited villages in the Marjioun province of southern Lebanon to assess the war-torn areas and survey the damage. Hajar was accompanied by UN peacekeepers and the head of the UN's Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, Kristen Knudsen. In the affected areas, there were scenes of heavy destruction, with residential buildings reduced to rubble. Lebanon's military has said that Israel continues to violate the ceasefire agreement despite UN patrols. According to the national news agency, Israeli bulldozers demolished homes in several neighborhoods of Naqoura, delaying the army's entry. The Lebanese army stated that it continues patrolling the road connecting Bayada and Naqoura in the south, alongside the UN interim force in Lebanon, UNIFIL of course, and it's also placed barricades on a coastal road between Hamra and Naqoura to prevent unauthorized movement. UNIFIL's headquarters is located in Naqoura. The Israeli occupation military has announced an attack on Hezbollah's rocket launch platforms in southern Lebanon. The occupation military stated that fighter jets destroyed medium-range rocket launch platforms used by Hezbollah at a military compound, as well as another site in the Nabatea region, where additional rocket launch platforms were also targeted. Meanwhile, the Israeli occupation army has carried out a large-scale sweeping operation using machine guns in the area between the towns of Bani Hayyan and Talusa in southern Lebanon. According to the Lebanese news agency, the operation also involved explosive demolitions around the town of Bani Hayyan during the night. Additionally, a large-scale demolition operation took place in the southern town of Kafakila, with explosions heard throughout the southern region. And Israeli media outlets have revealed that the Israeli military will construct 12 new military positions along the border strip with Lebanon. This decision comes at a time when the security situation along that border is witnessing escalating tensions between Israel and Hezbollah, in addition to ongoing security threats from armed factions in Lebanon. Now let's go to Beirut and find out more about this with writer and political analyst Wajdi Al-Aridi. Thank you very much for being here with us on Q News. Let's talk about this ceasefire, shall we? I mean, how are these violations and these constant violations by Israel affecting the security situation in southern Lebanon?
To you and to your viewers, Happy New Year to all of you. In fact, and frankly, the violations by Israel are continuing and escalating and very much repetitive. Israel is attacking the platforms of Hezbollah in the south. The Israeli planes are coming even to Beirut and the south of Beirut. So things are escalating and the situation is very grave. If these violations continue, the war might re-erupt, and there are many fears of this happening. So everybody is waiting for the American envoy, so as to see if the international effort can be resumed, and if the American envoy comes back, the talk might be reignited, and to see whether this truce would be renewed or not, because there is some talk about renewing the truce for another 30 days, but still everything is possible. And the situation is more hinting to more escalation, and this is what is more of an intention by Israel. And Hezbollah is emphasizing the continuation of resistance by the Secretary General of Hezbollah, Naim Qassem.
What do you think the objectives are of this military action in southern Lebanon by Israel? And also, is there any point of having a ceasefire if Israel isn't going to adhere to its conditions?
I believe that Israel will not be committed, at least before the new American president comes to the White House. And we will see who will be the new Secretary of State in the US. But Trump, during his campaigning, said that when he comes to the White House, there will be no wars, not even between Ukraine and Russia. So I believe that Israel is abusing the current time before Trump comes to office to do whatever they can do. And on the other side, there are great developments happening in the region. And after the great shift that happened, especially after the fall of the Syrian regime, so everything is now possible in the region. Israel is very close to Damascus. Israel is occupying many parts of the Golan Heights. Quneitra is only a few minutes away from Damascus. In addition to the attacks on Hezbollah and cutting the supply to Hezbollah, but still Hezbollah has had some weapons stored in Syria. Hezbollah is trying to get this weapon into Lebanon, but Israel is having very clear objectives in the south to destroy the homes in the nearby villages to the Israeli borders, and to create some buffer zone so as October 7 does not happen again from the Lebanese sides. This is how Israel is doing to defend its settlements, the north of Israel. That's because the settlers did not come back to the north of Israel. But this is all is waiting for Trump to come to the White House, and maybe there might be new policy and new way of handling things by the US.
So what do you make of this new effort by Israel? What do you make of this plan to build 12 new military positions along that Lebanese border?
This is to supervise any kind of movement of the resistance and Hezbollah. So Israel is actually controlling this area, demolishing the homes, making it a wasteland. So Israel has got a clear objective. There is no need to further read into this. Israel wants a buffer zone on the widest possible area in order to have towers and to have stations to monitor any kind of thing happening in the south of Lebanon. Israel is exploring the area every day by the Air Force and whatever. So in Beirut and Bekaa, they see the Israeli planes seeing and photoing to see what is happening on the ground and what are the movements of Hezbollah, and to photo Hezbollah out there. So the fighting is not much there, but still there were 2 attacks on Jabal in Lebanon. So things might go back to escalation if things develop the way they do.
And do you think there's any chance that long-term stability on the Israel-Lebanon border might be possible?
I don't think at this stage there will be any stability, not before implementing 1701. So we are waiting for the new US president to see what kind of initiatives he will do, how he will contact the different capitals, and how to get 1701 to be implemented. Things need some kind of a different situation, and maybe a new administration and a new state secretary will change things. But for the current situation in Lebanon, there is no way to implement 1701 because of the divisions inside Lebanon, and after the war that happened in the summer. If the truce is 50 or 40 days now, and the destruction is still at the same, and the Lebanese state did not do much more than just moving some rubble. So nobody is caring for reconstruction in Lebanon and the places that were demolished. So the Gulf countries are not taking a step into this the way they do in Syria. We are waiting if Lebanon would have a new president, and the South Council that is in charge of reconstruction, Hashim Haider, said that this needs a big project for reconstructing the south of Lebanon. Now there is more support for the people who were displaced from their villages. There is a huge number of displaced people in Lebanon, in the south of Lebanon. So this council in South Lebanon is trying to do whatever possible, but the situation in Lebanon is unstable till this moment.
Okay, well, thank you very much indeed. It's great to talk to you. Thank you very much for being with us. That was the analyst who was joining us, who is from Beirut, Wajdi Al-Aridi. Thank you very much for joining us here on Q News. And that brings us to the end of our special coverage on the Middle East. And remember, you can follow us wherever you are on social media. Add them on all the social media platforms so you don't want to miss us anywhere. At Q News EGY. Thanks for watching.